advice, great, fine. On the other hand, I don't know. There's a lot of things that could have been going on there. Either way, they called the tow truck, and the cop gave Mara a ride back to her father's hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
At about 4:45 in the morning, that morning, she called her boyfriend from the hotel room to talk with him about the accident.
Her boyfriend was in Oklahoma.
Yeah, he lived
so
in
that means he was like 2 time zones. So it was like 2:45 in the morning where he was at. Mm-hmm. I bet he appreciated that.
Well, it was 4:45 for her. It's kind of that's a weird time to call somebody either way. Although I guess if you just had a car accident,
you don't think about that. You just grab the phone and call.
Yeah. Although,
oh my God, you're not gonna believe what just happened.
Okay, but the car crash was at like 2, so there were 2 hours in the remaining.
True.
Yeah. So,
anyway.
Who knows? The next morning, her father, Fred, determined that the damage that she had done to the car would be covered under his insurance plan, so he rented a car, dropped Maura off at her dorm room, and drove home. He called Maura later that evening. It always says later that evening, but it was like 11:30 at night. Again, there's a lot of weird time stuff happening here. But called her to discuss how to file the insurance report because she had been driving and she needed to do some of the reporting, and they decided that they would talk more later, like on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, this information all comes from him.
Mm-hmm.
Around midnight on February 9th, shortly after speaking to her father, so it was right after she'd gotten off the phone with him about the insurance claim, Mara used her personal computer to search MapQuest. Yes, it was the early 2000s.
And that was the best direction website available.
That's what it was.
In 72 pixels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was looking for directions to both the Berkshires and Burlington, Vermont, both awesome places. So later that afternoon at like 1 p.m., she emailed her boyfriend, quote, "I got your messages, but honestly, I don't feel like talking to much of anyone. I promise to call today, though," unquote. Also, around 1, she made a phone call to inquire about renting a condo in Bartlett, New Hampshire. Apparently, she had vacationed there before with her family. The telephone records seemed to indicate that the call lasted 3 minutes, and she did not successfully rent a condo. Mara then called a fellow nursing student for reasons unknown, which is my favorite unsolved mystery term ever. It's unclear if that means that Mara connected with the student and the student is like refusing to say what they talked about, or if the student just never answered. I'm assuming that she just never answered.
Yeah, maybe they interviewed the student. The student just said that we just talked about crap. Nothing important.
Lipstick and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Isn't that what all 21-year-old college student girls do?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At 1:24, Mara emailed the work supervisor of hers at the nursing school and also her nursing school faculty advisors and professors, saying that she had to leave town for a week due to a death in her family and that she would contact them when she returned. However, nobody in her family had died.
Well, except her.
That's suspicious.
Oh, it's a little suspicious.
Well, I don't think it's suspicious. I mean, really seriously, how many, lots and lots of people tell lies to get out of work for whatever reason. They call in sick when they're not.
For like a day, though.
Yeah, I mean, a whole week is like, it's kind
that's
of
a long span of time.
It is a big exaggeration.
Yeah.
She just really needed to get away.
Yeah. So then at 2, she called a number that provides pre-recorded information about booking hotels in Vermont. Stowey, Vermont?
I think it's just Stowe.
Stowe?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the East Coast. They say all the things.
They use all vowels.
It might be Stye. Let's call it Stye.
No.
Anywho.
Somewhere in Vermont. She listened to the information for about 5 minutes, which is a really long time to listen to that kind of information.
Yeah.
I've been stuck in those telephone trees before. Press 1 to do this. Press 2 to do that. I press 3. Oh, crud, it's the wrong one. Press 9 to go back. 9 to go back. Start over. I mean, we've all been on those pre-recorded systems where you feel like you're in there forever.
I just thought it was like the weather service one that you can call that says, for your area code, the weather is... And it... It's just like on a minute loop or something.
Well, but if it's for booking hotels, hotels, it might have been listing hotels
that's true.
in an area, and so she got to navigate through it to find the area and then get the list of hotels.
Yeah.
That's
Anyway,
fair.
I don't know how relevant this is, though. But
It may or may not be.
yeah.
A few minutes later at 2:18, she telephoned her boyfriend and left a voicemail that essentially said they would talk later. And it was just under a minute long, that message.
Okay.
Like most voicemails are.
Yes.
In her car, she packed the things that you would typically pack on a trip. Clothes, toiletries, college textbooks, all that stuff.
I don't take college textbooks when I travel.
Well, because you're not a college student. Weird.
Oh, wow, that's right. Okay.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Well past that.
Yeah.
Well past
Well
that.
past
Yeah.
that. Apparently, when her room was searched after her disappearance, her dorm room, they found that all of her belongings were packed in boxes. Things like the art that was on the walls had been removed. It's apparently disputed whether she had packed them that day or if they were still packed from her she'd just gotten back from winter break. And we talked about this a little bit and debated back and forth. It's my feeling that you don't pack things up over winter break generally.
No,
So
unless you're changing rooms.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah,
When we
that's-
talked before we started, is that I remember kids when I was in college who, let's say, sprang for the private dorm room, and then, I can't afford the private dorm room anymore, so I've got to go to another room. So you got to pack it all up because you know you're
Yeah,
going to move.
so-
I've also known friends, whether in college or in their 30s, who move into a place and all seem to take 6 months to unpack.
Oh, yeah.
Live
Sure.
out of boxes
Yeah.
forever. So I mean, I can see, knowing that she's a 21-year-old college student, I can see any of those
Yeah.
being very, easy answers or and plausible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that it means a whole lot.
It's not clear.
No.
And Joe keeps saying, I don't know if that means a whole lot. I don't know if that's pertinent. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the big mystery around this unsolved mystery, right? Is that there are a lot of details that we have, and it's so unclear about what happened or what may be pertinent, what may
Yeah.
not be pertinent, that at this point it just behooves us to
Everything's under the
everything
microscope.
might be.
We can do that, yeah. And of course, I've already drawn conclusions about what happened.
Right,
Mara,
of course.
And so
I
and
know
that's
what
why
your conclusion is.
Yeah, and that's why I think that
That's why he's poo-pooing
Yeah.
every
Poo-pooing
detail
everything.
you bring up.
well, not poo-pooing them exactly. I'm just saying.
You're just saying it
I'm just saying
doesn't count.
I think I know what happened. So
All right. Well,
therefore,
let's
this is not
put
relevant.
your obvious conclusion
But
aside.
we'll
Let's
talk.
keep
Yeah, we'll
going.
talk about
Let's
that
keep
later,
going.
though.
So then at 3:40 p.m., Mara withdrew $280 from an ATM. The footage shows that she was alone, at least as far as the footage was concerned.
Mm-hmm.
This apparently almost emptied out her entire bank account. Of course, poor college student. 280
Yeah,
That's
that's
about
not
as
surprising.
much as you've got. Apparently, though, there was a paycheck that was due shortly.
Yeah, within days
Within
or something
days.
like that. Yeah.
She then went and purchased about $40 worth of alcohol at a nearby liquor store.
Mm.
And I love that that's like a huge deal, right? Like nearly $40.
I know. I mean,
worth.
it's like a trip to the liquor store. I could spend a lot more than
Oh,
that.
way
really.
more.
and
Like
everything
one
is
bottle.
$8 or more at a
Well-
liquor store, unless you buy the little itty bitty onesies that they give you on the
Well,
airplane.
which are stupidly expensive. But $40. This is interesting. This is suspicious, actually. She got Bailey's Irish Cream, Kahlua, vodka, and a box of Franzia wine, and she got all that for $40.
Right?
I want to go shopping at that store.
Yeah, I think there's the inflation thing.
Well,
right?
there's that too. It was 10 years ago.
Also,
but even
it's
for
all-
10 years ago, that's a lot of booze for.
Apparently, also closed circuit footage shows that she was alone while making these purchases as well. Important little tiny tidbits. Apparently, also at some point on that day, she obtained a registry of motor vehicle accident report form, which they found in her car. It was blank. It wasn't like filled out or anything like that.
she's a procrastinator. We figured that out.
Well, I don't know. That's not really procrastinating. That's just like the day after her father asked her, "Hey, fill out this accident report so I can file an insurance claim." I think that's fairly timely. Although I think that people tend to think that this is significant because that's not the kind of behavior that somebody has if they're planning to run away.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You're not going to file the report if you're just going to go missing.
True.
Why
Right.
bother?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mara then left Amherst, most likely via Interstate 91 North.
Oh, that's the route I would take.
I think it's kind of the
kind of the
only
main
route
route.
out. Yeah, then she called to check her voicemail at about 4:30, which is apparently the last recorded use of her cell phone. There's no indication that she had informed anybody of where she was going at this point.
All right. So anyway, she's headed off to the Sticks with a lot of booze to have a party.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, sounds like fun.
Sometime after 7 p.m. in Woodsville, New Hampshire, a resident there heard a loud thump outside of her house. Looking outside her window, she saw a black Saturn sedan, much like the one that Mara owned.
Was the one Mara owned.
Apparently, yeah.
It was up against a snowbank along Route 112. The car was pointing west on the eastbound side of the road.
Okay. Evidence of bad driving.
Evidence of really bad driving.
Yeah.
2 days in a row.
Yes. So she called. It was more than
No, that was
48 hours.
like 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
Or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Within a week.
Yeah.
She had a real talent for wrecking cars.
Apparently she did.
Yeah.
She hated that car.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
See further proof that she wanted a new one.
You know what I think? I think she disappeared and went to live on a little island somewhere where they don't have cars.
Yeah. She just hated cars.
She wanted to kill them.
Yeah. The neighbor, who's always unnamed, phoned the Grafton County Sheriff's Department.
Grafton. It's Grafton.
The Grafton. I don't know why I keep leaving out letters.
Oh, no.
When I'm trying to pronounce things
You
today.
know, you just don't like the letter R today
I
for
do
some
not.
reason.
It's true.
Or the letter S, even,
Nope.
for that matter.
Or
Yep.
E.
Yeah.
She didn't like E earlier either.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so at 7:27 is when they have the record of this accident report. About the same time, another neighbor saw the Saturn and reported that there was somebody walking around the vehicle, and saw a third neighbor / witness pull up alongside the Saturn.
The
The
school
third
bus
witness
driver.
was the school bus driver. Yeah, he was the
Yeah.
school bus driver who was returning home, and he said that he noticed a young woman who was not bleeding but was cold and shivering. He offered to telephone for help. She asked, some reports say pleaded, but she asked him to not call the police, and said that she had already called AAA, although AAA has no record of any calls. This is compounded by the fact that there is no cell phone reception in the area, which the resident, of course, knew. So he went home and phoned the police. His call was received by the sheriff's department at 7:43 p.m., and he said he was unable to see Mara's car while he made the phone call, but did notice several cars passing on the road before police arrived.
So, before you go, I wanted to
go
say
ahead.
one thing that I do find funny about his description is that she was not bleeding, but cold and shivering. Okay, well, yeah, it's February
In Massachusetts.
in Massachusetts,
Oh, no,
but,
in New
or New
Hampshire.
Hampshire.
Yeah.
But the other
Oh,
thing
wow,
is, I've been in a car accident before. Have either of you?
Oh, many.
It depends
And
on, yeah.
what automatically happens? You get an adrenal rush, and you automatically always got
Shaking.
that little bit of a jitter.
Maybe she was
It's-
shaking
it's-
from that, yeah.
Yeah,
Could
I
be.
mean, I've had close calls, and you get that rush, and you're gonna shake. So I don't know that the shivering
Well-
would denote cold.
Yeah, maybe she was shook up.
Yeah,
sure.
I think that it's mostly that she was shook up more
Yeah.
than anything. Now, does that mean anything? No,
Not
but
really.
again, this is one of those things that everybody says cold and shivering. I'm like, no, she just totally spun her car around at least 180 degrees or
Yeah,
the wrong way.
that's just an instance of a witness, sort of projecting.
Yeah.
It's like what he thought.
He
she was
rolled down the window
experiencing.
and went, "Whoo, it's cold."
And you're shivering, therefore you're cold. Yeah, but anyway,
It doesn't mean anything.
get
But
it.
I want to call it out because it's one of those things. Everybody says she was shivering because she was cold because she was
Well,
standing out on the side of the road. I
maybe.
don't know that that's always the correct interpretation.
Yeah, and
this
it's hard
story
to
is so much
tell.
interpretation. description.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell also because, he doesn't say, oh, and she was wearing a tank top, or, oh, she was wearing a parka.
Yeah.
There's no description of, he doesn't ever say, in none of the reports I've read, did he say what she was wearing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting little...
Did he say anything about whether she had the emergency blinkers on, or if she put any flares out or anything like that?
No.
Because, if you look at... I was able to actually get onto this guy's blog who's done quite a bit of investigation into this. And that particular little curve, that little road there's no shoulders, so she was in the road.
Yeah.
And it would have... If I were me, the first thing I'd do is put some flares out.
Well, you would have flares. I mean,
maybe
that's saying you have flares.
Yeah, I have flares.
I don't.
I'm a middle-aged man, and I don't have flares in my car.
But I would put my emergency blinkers on.
I would put the blinkers on.
Certainly.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, I guess it's not that relevant anyway, because we know what happened.
So at 7:46, just 3 minutes after the bus driver phoned, and it's not...
But actually 19 minutes after the first call at 7:27.
But so I guess it's significant in that it's not said how long it took the school bus driver to get from the crash to his house.
But it doesn't sound like he lives very far.
It doesn't, but I think
he
it would
actually lived within eyesight of the crash.
He said he couldn't see it from his house.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so I read a different account where he said he'd actually went home to his home and parked his school bus in such a way that he was able to actually look back down the road and see the car.
Oh, interesting.
But couldn't see it from the house, maybe.
Maybe couldn't see it from the house.
Yeah, it's just, I think it would be interesting to know the time in between.
Well, it was about 20 minutes, apparently.
I guess.
Because a lot of people have said, how could she possibly have disappeared? Because she was there, and then just a few minutes later, the police arrived. How could she have disappeared in that time? But no, it was more like 20 minutes.
I guess there's also a further question here, right, of he's a school bus driver. This is a poor, 21-year-old girl shivering, having a car crash. Why in the world did he not say, hey, come with me, we'll call the cops, and then we'll come back and wait together? You're obviously cold. I can, you can...
Because she's a 21-year-old college student, and it's a creepy old dude in a school bus.
I get... it's just kind of one of those,
I've had what seemed like perfectly nice people pull over when I've broken down. And, I was with somebody else at the time, and they're like, hey, do you want some help? I don't have a phone, but I could take you somewhere to call. Hey, that'd be great. Well, I can only take one of you because I only have room for one. No.
Yeah.
Thanks,
That's
but
fair.
no.
That's fair, but, I guess for me, he doesn't even mention, I offered.
It doesn't, yeah, he didn't mention
that.
You
should have offered, at least. It would have been fine if she said no, but...
Well, he did offer. He offered to help.
Maybe.
And maybe he did, and she turned it down.
Said,
and it's again one of those
AAA
details that just didn't get written down and copied and pasted over the internet.
Yeah.
But it is it's a little interesting that she was out in the road, and there was a house very close by.
There were lots of houses close by.
And she could have walked up to any of them and just asked them to call a tow truck or whatever, and she didn't do that. So that is a bit of a puzzler.
Yes.
But anyway, so she disappears.
So,
Cops show up at 7:46.
At 7:46, a Haverhill police officer arrives on the scene. No one was inside or around the car. The car's windshield had been cracked on the driver's side and both airbags had deployed. The car was locked. That's significant. That's definitely significant to me.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Inside and outside the car, he discovered red stains that looked like they were maybe red wine. And he did find the damaged box of wine, Franzia, on the rear.
Nothing but the best in a box.
Yeah, right. On the rear seat. In addition, he found a AAA card that was issued to her, a blank crash report form. Oh, I'm sorry. There were more than one. There were a few blank crash report forms.
Oh, so she expected to have multiple accidents, evidently.
Yeah.
Gloves, compact discs, makeup, just 2 sets of MapQuest directions, one to Burlington and the other to Stowey, both Vermont. Mara's favorite stuffed animal, and, significantly, Not Without Peril, a book about mountain climbing in the White Mountains in New Hampshire, which were 20 miles away from where she crashed.
Yeah, apparently she and her dad like to hike in that area. They did a lot of that in her childhood, teenage years.
Yeah. So Maura's debit and credit cards were missing along with her cell phone, and nobody's ever seen or had use of them since her disappearance.
That's significant.
I agree.
Yeah.
Somewhere between 8 and 8:30, it's unclear, a contractor who was returning home from work in Franconia?
Franconia?
Franconia.
Franconia.
Franconia said he saw a young person moving quickly on foot eastbound on Route 112, about 4 or 5 miles east of where Maura's vehicle was discovered. He said that the young person, and I don't know how he knew it was a young person, but he did, was wearing jeans, a dark coat, and a light colored hood. He didn't report it to the police because he was confused about the dates and didn't think it was significant, so he reported about 3 months later that he'd spotted the young person the night that Maura disappeared.
Yeah, so I don't think that means anything either.
Well,
I mean, I heard about that.
Okay,
too.
so I remember seeing that this guy, everybody says he was confused about the dates because he evidently didn't know that the search for her was going on right away. And he was thinking, oh, it was a couple of days later. But I got on Google and started looking at this area and then looked at the roads and went, okay, well, this is about where she crashed. And then we track 4 or 5 miles east on that road, which was the wrong way to go if you're trying to get to any major roads. Because, and for the life of me now, I can't remember which interstates it is that kind of run in parallel north, but she was taking the long way to get to one, when if she had continued to travel west 4 or 5 miles, it would have got her to the major interstate. So it's really strange to me that she would have backtracked that direction.
I guess on the one hand, I do want to remind you about MapQuest in the early 2000s. And how truly ineffective their directions were.
It got some people killed.
I mean, it was pretty awful.
But it also
I think
printed
it's
a
valid
map.
point. Yes, I think it's a valid point. I also do want to point out that this is insignificant in my mind because she interacted with somebody at like 7:30, right? And then at 8 was sighted 4 or 5 miles away, which is a significant amount of
8 to
ground
8:30. Yeah, it kind of
for
is.
somebody to cover in that amount of time.
Yeah, an 8-minute mile. Yeah, she would have been hauling butt.
Yeah.
And in half an hour, gotten 4 or 5 miles. That's a good point.
On foot on that road that night. I mean, not lots, but I mean,
It's possible
Yeah.
that there was some kid
it could have been
walking
anybody.
from one house
Yeah,
to
it
the
could
next.
have- So
So,
I don't think
we've debunked that theory. Just kidding. Just
Not that it was a
kidding.
theory, but yeah.
Just before 8 p.m., EMS and a fire truck arrived to clear the scene, and by 8:49 p.m., the car had been towed to a local garage. And at about 9:30 p.m., the responding officer left the scene. A rag that had been part of Maura's emergency roadside kit was discovered stuffed in the Saturn's muffler pipe, which is often a throwaway, but that just stands out to me so much. And I just don't know the cause for something like that. I don't know why somebody would do something like that.
Well, yeah, her dad actually sheds a little light on this. Yeah, he does. He said that I read on one site that there was a blown cylinder in the car, which I don't think is possible
I don't either,
because if you actually blast a whole cylinder out of your engine, your engine's
But if
not
you've
gonna
got a
run.
bad ring,
it could have been a bad ring or a
smoking.
blown head gasket or something like that. But anyway, so it could have been the ring, but it was smoking apparently really badly. And her dad was like saying, well, you know, it's going to make you kind of a target for the po-po. So he advised her.
Because she wasn't doing other things that were making her target.
Yeah, exactly.
Like calling them because she was crashing all over.
I know. So he advised her to stuff a rag up the tailpipe to conceal all the smoke, which that seems to be like kind of a bad idea.
That sounds like the worst idea I ever heard.
Well, you know, I mean, the world is full of bad ideas. Come on. I mean,
yeah, this makes me think of Beverly Hills Cop with the banana in the tailpipe.
yeah.
Nobody's going to see the smoke coming out of your tailpipe because your car's not going to run.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, so I don't know how good of advice that is. Doesn't sound that great to
Doesn't to me
But
either.
anyway, that's why he said that he was insisting on buying her a new car because he felt like her existing car was not going to continue running a whole lot longer.
Yeah, I bet. So The following day, a BOLO was issued for Mara in all of the counties surrounding the crash site that
BOLO.
she could have
Be on lookout?
be on lookout.
Okay.
Yeah. On February 11th, 2 days after her father, Fred, found out about the search, he arrived to help with the search, I guess, or something.
He showed up in the area then?
He came to the area where the sheriff's department was searching for Mara.
Okay.
Search dogs were sent to the crash site and followed her scent that they got off of a glove for about 100 feet, but lost it after that. Police stated that they believed that Mara had come to the area to run away or commit suicide. And her family and friends have, of course, denied this from the first suggestion. A lot of other people suggest that perhaps her credit card fraud in conjunction with the 2 car crashes in like less than a week, and all 3 being in less than 3 months, point to maybe a serious problem with alcohol. And her
That's
family,
possible.
of course, denies that as well. Her family has been very adamant about painting Mara as this perfect, innocent angel figure,
Well, of course they would.
which seems to have actually maybe been quite detrimental to the actual search. Again, we'll get into that a little bit later. Towards the end of 2004, apparently a man gave Mara's father a rusty stained knife that had belonged to his brother, the man's brother, not Fred's brother, who apparently was a criminal and had lived less than a mile from where Mara's car was discovered. His brother and his brother's girlfriend were said to have acted strangely after Mara's disappearance.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Yeah, creepy as
Super
hell.
creepy.
But did Mara's father not follow up on this?
I think that it was my understanding that he handed the knife over to authorities and they tested it and there was no evidence.
No Mara blood on there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In late 2005, Mara's father filed a lawsuit against many of the law enforcement agencies that had been involved with the investigation with the aim to find out what was going on in the files with the case. Since it's an ongoing investigation, many of them have not been made public.
Of course,
He
yeah.
wanted to know what they knew, which is, I guess, kind of fair.
Yeah, I would.
Also in 2006, the New Hampshire League of Investigators, which is a thing,
Which is an awesome group
which
name.
is an awesome group name.
I know I would call myself like the League of Justice.
Yeah,
or
I don't know why we
the
haven't
League
called ourselves
Extraordinary
like,
Ex-Cops or something like that.
That was one of the names that we threw,
Yeah.
on the cutting room floor when we came up with the name of this show.
Yeah.
Actually, I was still voting for Danger Probe.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're glad we didn't go with that.
No, I
Anyway,
like
you were
Danger
saying,
Probe.
The New
Devin.
Hampshire League of Investigators is made up of 10 retired police officers and detectives. They, in conjunction with the Molly Bish Foundation, started working on Mara's case in 2006. Tom Shamshak,
Shemshak?
Shamshak? Sounds good.
a former police chief and member of the Licensed Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts, says, I quote, "It appears that this is something beyond a mere missing persons case. Something ominous could have happened here," unquote.
Yeah, well, duh.
In October of 2006, volunteers led a 2-day search within a few mile radius of where Mara's vehicle was found. Creepy alert. In a closet of an A-frame house quite close to where the crash was. Cadaver dogs
Now,
allegedly...
are these dead dogs? Are they zombie dogs?
No. They're dogs that look for cadavers.
Ah.
They smell for
There's a
cadavers.
drug dog which is trained to catch the smell of drugs.
Yeah.
There's a dog that is trained to react
Smell
to the
cadavers.
decomp.
Yeah. Human
yeah.
decomp.
Smelly
specifically.
decomposing, yeah.
Yeah. So they had a bunch of cadaver dogs with them on this search, and in the closet of an A-frame house, the cadaver dogs allegedly went, quote, bonkers, unquote, identifying possible presence of human remains.
Yeah, did they bother opening it? Because I read this one too. Did they bother to open the closet door?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was in
And
the
there was-
closet, and there was
and there were
carpet
no
there.
cadavers? Yeah.
And they cut some of the carpet and sent it off for analysis, but I never could find out if there were any results from that, which is creepy in and of itself.
You know what really makes me angry is that every source that I found that talked about that said, and waiting for results.
In 2006, you guys, it's been like more than 6 years.
And there's never anything that says what they found. I mean, I would like to know, okay, you know what? It turned out a raccoon got shut in the closet and died.
I would be so much
That's
happier.
fine.
That's
but
totally
tell
fine.
Me what in the
Well,
what
yeah.
you found.
Yeah, because now I'm just freaked out about Mara Murray being in the carpeted closet of an A-frame. That's terrifying.
Yeah,
Never buy an A-frame house.
Me. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
gosh. So, significant rewards somewhere to the tune of $75,000 have been offered
Really?
for just information on this case.
Wow.
So far, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, the only person that knows is the person that. Well, anyway, I'll get into that later.
You really are just railroading this whole
Yeah,
thing,
he
Joe.
is. there are some hinky things going on here, though.
Okay.
Here's the cast list of
Oh.
this story.
Oh, our cast of characters
Our
now?
cast of, well, yeah, I guess I hesitate to call it cast of characters because they're characters are more fun than these people.
There is
Not
a big
to-
cast, though.
You know, not to besmirch or anything, but there's a cast of people. The first of which is, of course, Fred Murray.
Mara's dad.
Yeah, the story that we just told involves this character, Fred, who's the caring father who was involved in his daughter's life at every turn. And it seems like it turns out that may not actually be the case. And now, granted, all of this is internet information. I don't know the guy personally. And I don't want to besmirch the name of somebody. I generally feel that people are good. But here's what the internet has to say about it.
Well, and be careful about this because the internet is known for circulating like lies.
Yeah, absolutely.
And misinformation.
And that's what I want to do is I want to put a little disclaimer on this, right? That says this is what the internet says, but whether it's true or not, I don't have a good idea. Aside from my earlier mention of the high probability of him lying about what he and Mara were doing 2 days previous to her disappearance, the car shopping.
Why do you say that's high probability?
Oh, we talked about this a little bit.
Because
she
nobody
was-
else could
Knew
confirm
about- yeah.
that that's why he was there.
Well, yeah, but still, that doesn't make it a high probability that he's lying. I don't.
It's just okay. Well, it's odd.
It's odd.
Let's call it that.
It's odd you didn't mention it to anybody, but again, I mean, I personally, when I go get a new car, I don't usually tell people. I like to show up with a new car.
You're also not a 21-year-old girl.
No, no.
You
just
never
from-
have been.
I mean, from
Yeah,
my
no,
experience,
even when I was 21.
my
Yeah.
friends who purchased cars recently or in college or whatever, that's all they wanted to talk about was how they were so excited that they were getting a new car or how they were so annoyed that they had to buy a new car. That's like a thing that young people talk about often.
Yeah, okay, kind of a bit.
That notwithstanding, he apparently refused to be interviewed by the police for nearly 2 years. And when he finally did come in for questioning, he brought 2 lawyers with him, which, bringing 2 lawyers with you to be interviewed in and of itself, not so, that's fine, whatever. Do what you feel like you have to do to protect yourself. But waiting 2 years to be interviewed about the disappearance of your daughter by police during an investigation and then bringing 2 lawyers, it's all these like little tidbits of like, if that had been the only thing, then it would have been like a tiny little like drink red flag, right? The kind of flags you put in your drinks. Whereas like added to some of the other stuff that may or may not be true about him just kind of paints this overall picture of questionability, questioning his character. So the internet also tells me, and again, please take this with the disclaimer that I don't know if this is true or not, but it tells me that he may have lied about what else happened on that weekend, and there's no details about what that means. But it also tells me that upon a search of his things by the police, photos of young women from his family were found in porno magazines.
What's odd about that? Just kidding.
Wait. Now, when you say photos of young women in his family were found in magazines, does that mean that they were Polaroids or snapshots that were stuck in magazines?
Yeah.
Okay, not like he had made his own home gross magazine. Okay.
No,
I just wanted to make sure because that's creepier.
Pressed neatly in the folds of a porno magazine was a snapshot of a niece
And
or a, aunt.
That's an
when
odd
they were
bookmark.
young or
That
something.
is, yeah. But who put
something
this
like that.
particular little factoid out in the
Well, and
internet?
that's exactly it, is that it's this guy, James Renner,
Yeah.
who is kind of, he's doing a blog. Many of you probably know about him. He's writing a blog and writing